Thank you, Olivia. I don't know how she does it so fast because it takes Rob longer to do it. So, but anyway, good job, Olivia. Okay, I'll call the committee of the whole meeting to order. Is there any declaration of interest related to any item on this agenda? Not seeing one. Of course, we can raise it at any time. We have a notice of motion from Councillor Body. I will allow you to read the motion first. I'll get a mover in second. I presume you're going to move it, but I'll let you read it first and then I'll ask for comments.
Thank you, Warden Milne. The motion is, whereas the Community Safety and Policing Act states that police services are responsible for the security of courthouses within their jurisdiction. And whereas the net cost of court security and prisoner transport for the Ontario Court of Justice and Superior Court of Justice in Owen Sound was $236,233. And this cost is paid solely by the taxpayers of Owen Sound. Now, therefore, it be resolved that Council for the County of Grey hereby directs staff to prepare a report summarizing the issue, providing options or models for funding. And
Thank you, sir. Is there a seconder for that motion? Councillor Gregg. Councillor Body, do you want to speak to the motion?
I will. Thank you. As we know, the courthouse is just across the corner here. It serves all of our regional population. So for criminal court, it serves everybody from Tobermory to Sauble Beach, excluding the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation or Saugeen First Nation, and all of Grey County, with the exception of Hanover and West Grey, that go across to Walkerton. I believe that it serves all the family court. I forgot to look that up for Grey County, and if you're in Bruce, you have got to go to Walkerton. So it's just the crossover is just in criminal. There is a lot of security that has to be in that building. There has been violence in courthouses over the years, not necessarily this one, that have increased the need for policing. Quite often, it's the motion of family court, not just criminal court, that requires policing, but certainly as people are charged with criminal acts and quasi-criminal, like Highway Traffic Act, if they're not coming here for some of them, they go over there. And if someone's going into custody, then they are required to be covered by, there needs to be security and police there. In 2008, as part of the Provincial Municipal Fiscal and Service Delivery Review, the province uploaded court security costs for communities that host courthouses across the province. This upload reached its maximum allocation of $125 million in 2018. 2023, the city's total cost for court security and prisoner transportation for the service area was $565,569 in total. 2023, the city received a provincial allocation of $329,336, which left the taxpayers in Owen Sound solely responsible for $236,233 in costs related to court security and prisoner transportation. And as you know, we don't have a Grey County jail here anymore. It's all in Penetang. So that's part of the transportation. And it's transporting people that aren't just Owen Sound residents, obviously they're Grey County residents. Provincial government recognizes this issue, and as I mentioned, there is an upload of costs that began in 2012. Recently, at 2021, Goss Gilroy Inc. Management Consultant Report examined court security and how it is funded, reported that costs related to court security and prisoner transportation will continue to increase, and the gap between actual costs and the provincial transfer amount will continue to grow, but it's capped at $125 million. With this background, I'd like to present the motion, which I have, that requests staff prepare a report with background that summarizes this issue and brings forward a report with a goal of fairly allocating costs among the members' municipalities. Oxford County has taken this approach for the courthouse located in Woodstock. As we know, some of the provincial offenses come into this building. There is some revenue that's generated and distributed, and it's revenue that's coming in from all over Grey County. But we've got the costs of that building on our own that we think we need to look at. So thank you.
Thank you, Ian. Any discussion? Councillor Gregg.
Thank you, Warden. And if I might, I just would like to add that we kind of liken our situation to larger regional centers, which all throughout the GTA often have regional police forces. And as such, those costs are then attributed back to the region as a whole. And that gap is then placed between all taxpayers. But Owen Sound is placed in a unique situation with a small municipal police force and servicing what is similar in terms of a region as to the easy to identify GTA players such as Peel Region or so forth. So we do find ourselves a little bit unique outside of how some other regions are funded to cover that gap or that discrepancy, which certainly occurs, and the councillor just spoke to. So
Thank you, sir. Any other discussion? Councillor Mackey.
Thanks, Mr. Warden. Number of us municipalities being served by the OPP that does have prisoner transport. I would hope that the report would be able to break down the court security costs, which are solely bared by the city of Owen Sound, but also the transportation, how that is split between OPP transportation services and city transportation services, so that we get, really get a solid picture of what's taking place now. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone? Councillor Eccles.
Would the report, if we're looking at costs as well as everything else when we're into budgeting, and we also look at the expenses, but is there anything that is a revenue generator out of that facility that would be offset some of the costs?
Sorry, go ahead, sir.
Would the report be able to identify some of that as well too?
I'd be hopeful that the report would, if there is anything of that nature, that it would be all encompassing so that we get a very clear picture of all the, revenue, expense. Anyone else? Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much, sir. The consent agenda is next. Is there anyone wishing to remove any of those items for further discussion? Sorry? Yes, there is. Yes, there is. I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Sorry. Oh, I'm trying here. I'm trying. Anne Marie, welcome. Good morning. So Anne Marie is going to introduce and welcome our guests.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Good morning, County Council. The Community Services and Policing Act of 2019 mandated that every municipal council prepare and adopt a community safety and well-being plan, and Grey County adopted one in 2021. The majority of the municipalities in Grey and Bruce came together to create a regional collaborative plan. The plan identifies 5 priority areas: mental health, addictions and substance use, poverty and income, housing and homelessness, and crime prevention. Alexis Cook, our Community Safety and Wellbeing Planning Coordinator, and Chief Robert Martin from West Grey Police Services are here today to provide council with an update.
Hey, thanks very much, everyone, for having me. Is this volume okay? Perfect. So I do have Chief Robert Martin from West Grey Police afterwards to answer questions. He also is the chair of our crime prevention action table as well. So what is community safety well-being? So we really look at upstream prevention, so preventing problems before they even happen. We also work on strengthening coordination and communication amongst various sectors of government, municipalities, as well as organizations from health, social services, community agencies, and police services. And we use evidence-based planning and decision-making, so looking at peer-reviewed journal articles, stakeholder engagement, and local data to make our action plans and then evaluate our outcomes and metrics. And then we have a reduced investment and reliance on incident response. So our 911 services, our police, our fire, and our EMS. So as we talk about community safety well-being, it is a multifaceted approach. So with this statement here, we have a over-encompassing idea of what community safety well-being is. So community safety and well-being planning helps organizations improve the things that keep us healthy, happy, and safe. Together, we use research to create solutions focused on education, healthcare, food, housing, income, crime, and belonging. And it is important that we create a welcoming community where problems are solved before they happen, and where different professionals and community members can come together to help people now and in the future. So the framework we follow is a provincial framework. So if you look at the ring here, what we're moving away from is incident response in that red area, so those 911 services. And our action tables are really focused on our two outer rings, so prevention and social development. In addition to that, we do have an action table, or our situation table, that is focused on risk intervention, which I'll get into in a little bit. So how do we get to our action tables and developing those priority areas? So back when this legislation came into play, we had a community survey that went out to all members across Grey and Bruce region and our First Nations. So from that, individuals were able to evaluate on what was important to them in their community and what they saw as concerns that they would like to be addressed. So those issues were brought forward. An action table was developed based on those concerns that were identified as concerns from the community, as well as using our local data and stakeholder engagement. Each of the action tables currently follows a process of developing an action plan, using that evidence-informed decision-making, and then evaluating their outcomes as they move forward to determine if they are moving the needle. So our action tables, as Anne-Marie has said, we have housing and homelessness, our poverty and income, mental health, addictions and substance use, and crime prevention. So our first table here is our housing and homelessness, which is led by our Homelessness Response Steering Committee, which is led by our two counties, Safe and Sound, Mowakadong Indigenous Friendship Center, Bright Shores, the YMCA, and CMHA. So they're currently working on some initiatives to improve the coordinated access guide to give us the real cost of homelessness. They're developing an encampment protocol and a referral process, and then they're updating the by names referral and prioritization. Our next is the poverty and income action table, which is led by our Bruce Grey Poverty Task Force. So they're currently working on, they just actually had their community volunteer income tax program gathering to celebrate the success of the program, which last year saw over 9 million returned to the two counties and Huron from people filing their taxes and having that support to do so. In addition to that, there's a redesign of the Poverty Task Force to really increase engagement from community members as well as councillors, municipalities, to improve engagement, as well as a highlight of policy work on their website. Next is our mental health action table, which just got up and running in December of 2023. It is led by our mental health and addictions networking table. So that is led by Keystone, Canadian Mental Health Association, and Bright Shores. So they're currently working on their new housing and treatment program. So one just launched here in Owen Sound the other week and accepting referrals. They're aligning their actions with a Ontario Health Team Network Visioning Day from last year for mental health and addictions to ensure that they're aligned with stakeholder, local data, and community priorities. They're reviewing data from all of their partners to ensure that they can accurately identify an action plan and identify gaps currently in the system and enhance what is working well. And additionally, they're working on developing a scorecard so we can accurately evaluate the mental health programmings in the community and report back to stakeholders and the community as a whole. Next is our substance use and addictions table. So this is led by our community drug and alcohol strategy. They're currently going through a refresh right now. So they are receiving in-kind coordinator support from Grey Bruce Public Health, from their harm reduction team and those public health nurses there. So they're working on a new strategic plan to bring new energy into the community drug and alcohol strategy. With that, they had a strategic planning day just a couple of weeks ago to determine key action areas over the next several years to really address our community needs. And last but not least, we have our crime prevention action table. And this is chaired, as I've said, by our West Grey Police Chief, Robert Martin, who's just sitting behind me. So we have all of our 5 local services, our 2 OPP detachments, Crime Stoppers, and Victim Services of Bruce Grey, who sit at this table and work together, in addition to working in collaboration with other partners across the board, such as Violence Prevention Grey Bruce, Anti-Human Trafficking Committee. So they have identified 4 priority areas to focus on using that community survey that went out, engagement with local stakeholders, as well as using our data at a local and provincial level. So they have road safety, drug trafficking, human trafficking, and intimate partner and gender-based violence. So they're currently working on a youth road and internet safety, which you'll see some media releases come out in August. It'll be August 24th at the Saugeen Children's Safety Village, partnering with them and local Rotary clubs to deliver a fun day of education for youth and their parents. We're currently working on a cannabis and driving program to address young and novice drivers who would be consuming cannabis and driving, as well as passengers who would be getting into a car and consuming, or the driver would be consuming cannabis and someone would be getting into a car with them. Currently working on a short-term rental human trafficking resource with the Anti-Human Trafficking Committee. A road safety survey launched on June 17th. It'll be running till September 17th. So it has high risk priority areas that have been identified by our local police services in correlation with local data and provincial data for community members to respond back on what is a priority from them. And then we'll create action plans based on upstream prevention. And then in addition, we're collecting intimate partner and gender-based violence from our police services in collaboration with Violence Prevention Grey Bruce to have a more accurate picture of what intimate partner violence and gender-based violence looks like in the community to respond effectively. So this is what I discussed a little bit earlier. So in our yellow circle there, our risk intervention, we have our situation table for acutely elevated risk, or it's known in the community from partners as STAR, because it's a little longer name, so we like to call it STAR. So a situation table, you'll see them across the province. You'll see them out in BC as well. So it's a meeting of, we have police services, social service agencies, we have community agencies, and they use their expertise and experience to work together to really reduce that chance that someone will experience imminent harm from a combination of risk factors that really increase their imminent victimization. The goal of this table is to have short, immediate, and collaborative interventions with the goal of having them enacted within 24 to 72 hours. We currently have 35 multidisciplinary partners across Grey and Bruce and our First Nations who participate in this plan, and other partners come in as required. So you'll hear me chat about acutely elevated risk, or AER. So what is AER? So OACP, the Standing Committee on Community Safety and Crime Prevention, has a definition. And it's a situation that can affect the health and safety of an individual, a family, a group, or even a place where there's a significant high probability of a harm to that self or others. And the factors cut across multidisciplinary services, and they use everyone's lens of what acutely elevated risk is. So it's not just from one agency's perspective, it's from the collective group's perspective on what acutely elevated risk is. So when we talk about situation table, we look at some data that we have here. So in 2023, we had 29 situations be referred to our table from partners. 25 met our criteria for acutely elevated risk as determined by our experts at the table. Out of those 25, we had a 60% rate that had their acutely elevated risk lowered. And from that, 23 individuals were assisted. In 2024, year to date, we've had 12 situations, 10 have met AER. 8 of those 10 are closed. 2 are currently open and being worked through. Organizations have a 2-week report back period that they can put their data back in. And we currently have an 88% acutely elevated risk lowered. And 55 individuals have had their acutely elevated risk lowered this year. And you may notice a big difference between the numbers, even though there was additional situations last year, because this year we've had a neighborhood that was brought to the table. So for one situation, we had 39 individuals involved who had their acutely elevated risk lowered as a result of the table. So what does that mean when we think about the community? I can talk about acutely elevated risk as much as I want, but what does that actually mean? So this is a situation we had last year that was brought to the table. All of the personal health information and information about this individual has been redacted to protect their privacy, but this was in the Grey Bruce region. So client X called 911 53 times. We had police respond 100% of the times, and we had 911 or EMS respond 9 of the 53 times. We saw a cost of just over $16,600 to our 911 services for police and EMS as a direct result. We had them brought to the table. We had a quick intervention that was collaborative with partners across the table. And with the 2.5 months following, that individual only called 911 6 times. Police had responded 6 times and EMS did not have to respond at all. We saw an 89% reduction in 911 calls within that 2.5 months. We saw over 15,000 saved to 911 services and improved connections and supports for that individual moving forward. So what have we achieved in the last year? So this is July 2023 to June 2024, and we're still not done the months, so this list can get longer. So we've developed and launched our mental health and crime prevention action tables. That was in December of 2023, and they're well on their way and working towards initiatives. We've established reporting framework for all of our action tables, so we have consistency across the board in what they're each reporting on. We developed and launched a social media plan. So every month you'll see at least one media release and one social media post to really increase the engagement with the community and education on what community safety well-being is. Increased our membership at our advisory committee. So we currently sit at 78 members across various organizations. We have our situation table that's been increased and our action tables and participation in those. We're increasing rural data on community safety well-being. So we currently have a project with the Rural Ontario Institute that will give us levels, municipality specific data on community safety well-being. So that'll be launching next month actually in the community. And we've applied to many opportunities and collaborations with partners. So right now we're just waiting to hear back from the provincial government on our Safer and Vital Communities grant. So that's in partnership with Saugeen First Nations, Victim Services, our Crime Prevention Action Table and Women's House. And we would provide the community with Indigenous cultural training, as well as intimate partner and gender-based violence if we are successful. We've also been successful in a community foundation grant from our local Grey Bruce Community Foundation to provide situation table members with training on Indigenous healing, as well as 2S LGBTQ plus population training from Grey Bruce Pride. And we have our traditional elder providing our Indigenous cultural training from Saugeen First Nations. We've been successful from Bruce Grey Child Family Services to fund the coordinator position for the situation table to ensure that we are still reducing acutely elevated risk and the strain on 911 services. And we've supported our partners at Mawukunong in applying to Pathways to Safe Indigenous Communities at a federal level. So what are we looking forward to doing in 2025? So you'll be seeing the community well-being survey in 2025. It'll be our 5-year measurable about all of the same information from the Canadian Index of Wellbeing that was previously launched in 2020 to the community. We have legislation under the Community Safety and Policing Act that we must revise and update our plan if required by July 2025, since we have adopted it prior to July 1st, 2021. We're going to continue to explore opportunities to sustain this position and other long-term funding. We'll be launching a STAR dashboard, so our situation table for acutely elevated risk for stakeholders and the public to see the great work and collaboration that occurs there. Continuing to pursue additional partnerships at all of our tables, our action table, situation table, and advisory committee, and then increasing knowledge and participation in those action tables as well through a fall lunch and learn series. So you'll see that come out around September, October, and then community trainings. So going to different organizations, speaking about community safety well-being, our situation tables, and how others can participate and move this work forward as a collective whole. So that brings us to the end of our presentation. And like I said, I'm available for questions as well as Chief Robert Martin, if you do have any. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Alexis. Very comprehensive report. Any questions from council? Councillor Gray.
Darn, I was hoping you go Councillor Keaveney first. My question is for you, Alexis, and thank you for being here today alongside Rob. And perhaps this might be for Rob, but it's regarding in terms of helping me understand the cost. So you've got one slide which indicates client X called 53 times. Total cost $16,618. in the improvements to the system. Total cost is $1,410. But what is a cost defined as? Like, is it an opportunity cost? I mean, if we are responding to one individual 53 times, obviously there's a heightened risk of us not being able to respond to a heart and stroke, are obvious ones, to other members in the community, unless we upstaff. So is this like hard staffing costs, or are these just opportunity costs? And is this a situation where we're spending $20,000 on social work to save $15,000 approximately in police and EMS services? So just wondered if you could expand on the definition of costing in terms of your reporting here.
Through you, Warden. Thank you very much for the question. That's a great question. So the cost that we broke down was staffing time. So we had the average cost of police as well as the cost per call, so per hour of police going out, as well as EMS. So that included the full cost for police as well as EMS. And then the cost differential was if there was no intervention, presuming that the individual would still call 911 53 times with the same calendar year of 2.5 months. And the cost of preventative, I don't have the exact number on me, but a lot less cost for our community mental health. And once they were connected with those services, they didn't need crisis and acute care, and which, comparing a police and EMS response, is a lot more expensive than having a community mental health worker support this individual, and not at 53 times within those 2.5 months as well too. So significantly less than it would have been for 911 services.
So perhaps not costs that we're actually able to realize, but we're able to reallocate existing services in different ways. Would that be accurate?
Through you, Warden. Yes, that's completely accurate. So those 911 calls, now it could go to someone who's possibly having a stroke, or if there's a car accident, it reduces those times that those individuals would have to wait, versus if someone's responding to these 911 calls for this individual who could be served by other proactive services, then those individuals could have EMS come to them faster. Possibly they could have police come to them faster. It frees up those resources for other individuals in emergency situations.
Councillor Keaveney, did you have a question?
Just a comment, if I may, your warden. I just wanted to share with County Council that Alexis also delivered her presentation at the Rotary Conference this past weekend, held here in Owen Sound. This is District 6330, which extends through southwestern Ontario and down into Michigan. And Alexis, I just want you to know how your message really resonated with Rotarians, and you now have a number of those clubs going back home and discussing how they can support community safety and well-being in their own communities. So just wanted to encourage you to continue being out there in the public and delivering your very important presentation, because you are getting the attention of people who can come together and make a difference in their communities. So thank you.
To you, Warden. Thank you so much. That was great. I had a great day on Saturday at the Rotary clubs, and we got quite a few new partnerships too with various Rotary clubs, and have them coming to support us with our youth and road safety in August now. So great to have their support, and happy to do so. Thank you.
Any other questions? Oh, Councillor Mackey, thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Warren. Thanks very much, Alexa. That was very interesting. In your scenario, client X, and the vast reduction in the number of times services had to be called, what interventions did you see are making the most effect on these changes? So you've had a number of people, but what specific interventions are seeming to be most worthy of maybe further support?
Through you, Warden. So the most that we see at the table, so we track services mobilized. So you can track what services are used the most from our table and engaged with. Mental health is a top one. So we see our mental health services through Bright Shores, through CMHA, through Keystone, through Bruce Grey Child Family Services, through our Indigenous partners. All of those are top priority and get utilized the most at the table as well. And they come up as our top risk factor as well. So we track the top 3 risk factors and provide that in a data statement. So we see in 2023, our data collected and carrying over into 2024 as well. Mental health is our top risk factor. There's criminal involvement, including like survival crimes. And then there's challenges to make not able to meet basic needs. So having those supports from our mental health partners and others at the table do make a big difference for individuals involved.
Thanks, Mr. Warden. If I could, I didn't want to see Chief Martin not have an opportunity to answer any questions, so I was just wondering, we seem to hear about, especially with summer coming and the number of people coming into the area. I'm just wondering what effect that's having on overall crime rates. A lot of the theft rings that have been in the area seem to stem from or are headquartered outside of the area. So I'm just wondering how we're working with the police forces in Southern Ontario to curb some of that is maybe coming to our area. Thanks.
Thank you, Alexis. Through you, Warden, to answer Councillor Mackey's question. Yes, crime is transient. It is moving here. We have a number in our municipality of community trailer parks. We have never seen it before where we've seen such a transient change. We are dealing with organized crime groups that are coming into our area, leaving the GTA because we're seeing the displacement factor. As our provincial governments and federal governments put more money into challenges in the GTA and more urban areas, all they're doing is pushing the problem out into our rural areas. They are transient. They move along our highways. We have highways 6 and 10. They come directly up from south of us. I will not name the municipalities they're coming from because some chiefs do get upset when I bring those up in meetings. They travel through our areas, bringing those challenges that the GTA and those urban areas normally see, but now we're seeing. We see an increase. It starts usually the week before May 2-4, and it will end the week after Thanksgiving when the weather clears up. We're a recreational area. As we have recreational areas, there's opportunities for crimes. We're very rural. Our police forces are spread out. We're not as concentrated, having a number of smaller municipal services and our OPP partners. They know there's opportunity here, and if there's opportunity for a criminal, they come. With the crime prevention table, which I chair, I won't speak on the other tables themselves. We are looking at how do we deal with those. We are actively engaged with the regional police services. We're actually engaged with our policing partners on the OPP. We work together, and the community safety and well-being plan's been great because now it gives us a chance to share and meet and talk about our issues in the Grey and Bruce areas. And I will say for the council members present here, we are fortunate in Grey County because we have 3 municipal services, the OPP, and we all get along and we all speak. We are engaged all the time. We have joint operations all the time. We have joint things going on to deal with property theft, with farm equipment theft, theft of fuel now. Alexis did bring it up. Survival crimes are becoming a problem now because we're seeing gas being stolen. We're seeing things that we wouldn't normally be stolen before, diapers, formula, bread items, things like that, because people are struggling. And by bringing us all to this table and having that collaborative approach with the 78 partners that are now at the table, that's how we're going to deal with it. And in my respectful opinion, we're dealing with it quite well in Grey County. Hopefully that answers your question, Scott.
Thank you, sir, for that all-encompassing question. Did you have anything else you wanted to add? I can see you're just.
Now, a number of times we come here and I will figure this out. Zoom is new for us in Grey County, and yes, with the internet at our police station, we're still figuring out how things work, but we'll have a new facility with working internet soon, I do hope. We do a number of presentations. We go around all the time. The one person who never gets enough recognition is Alexis. She is our coordinator. I've heard her talk. She does a great job. You talked about what she does for the Rotaries. She is our driving force for this. She is driving force in keeping all of those chairs intact. And I need to publicly say thank you for all the work you do, because without you, this would have failed a long time ago. Thank you for indulging me for this.
Indeed. Thank you to both of you. In the absence of any further questions, thank you, Alexis, for the presentation. Very well done. And thank you for your time. And thank you to Chief Martin for his time as well. Thank you. Okay, it's a little after 11. Do we require? Yes, we do, apparently. We'll recess for, let's say we'll come back about 10 after 11. Okay. Thank you, Olivia. All right, we'll bring the meeting back to order. So we are to the consent agenda now, I believe. Thank you for that. Anyone wish any of those removed for further discussion? Okay, would someone move adoption or receiving of those? Councillor Carlton and Councillor McKay. It's close. It's close. Any discussion? All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. Moving on to items for direction and discussion. We have a report there from Grey Roots Museum and Archives Theater sponsorship, and Savannah will be taking that, and Doug Cleverly is here as well with us. So Savannah, the floor is yours. Wait, I need a mover and seconder. Councillor Eccles and Councillor Matrosov. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Warden. Good morning, County Council. Very happy to be here with this report today, talking about a sponsorship of $50,000 for Grey Roots Theatre to do some much needed work and turn it into a real asset. This report is strategically linked to the EDTC master plan. This is part of our strategic shift into focusing on programming and looking at the assets we already have. And Doug has done a wonderful job. So that's why he's here with me today to talk to just high level about the theater improvement plan, because he has really brought the theater to life. We've seen a tremendous increase in use since 2022, and we can only see that continuing. So he's got a couple of examples to show you here today. Knowing that we have the original equipment, so it's now 20 years old, the projector itself, which is what powers the entire theater, is no longer replaceable. We cannot get parts, we can't get anything for it. So we are currently on a bit of a timeline in terms of making sure that we don't pose risk to operations and not have it functioning anymore. And that is why in the 2024 capital budget, we proposed the $25,000 project for Grey Roots Theatre to be able to upgrade that and look at some other additional items that could really help the theater become a better place. We always have a standing call for sponsorship on our website. We are always promoting it through the annual review, and we're talking about it online and on social media. And during this time, we were approached by Mr. Thomas Wheeldon, who has been a very long time supporter of Grey Roots and has been, a tremendous sponsor, who said that his next interest was in the theater. So knowing we had interest, and we had also had a strategy that told us what we needed to do now and what we could do in the future to really turn the theater into a wonderful place that would help to build our use, build our revenues, we thought it was a perfect fit. So I'm going to turn it over to Doug to talk about the theater improvement plan, and then I'll talk specifically about the sponsorship agreement.
Good morning, Warden and members of council. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak to this wonderful facility. I've been there for 2 years now, but on the payroll since May of 2022. And we started doing events in the theater right away. And I was aware of what a beautiful space it was, but also that there were some areas for improvement, some deficiencies that were kind of easily taken care of. And as Savannah spoke to, I was also concerned about the fact that the projector had extended its life beyond beyond hope of repair, basically. I apologize for the formatting here. I used a different font and it didn't translate, unfortunately, when it came to you. So that's why it's looking a little odd. So strengths and areas for improvement. It's a beautiful theater. It's got great acoustics, soft seating. People love that. Fantastic sound system. And what we've been seeing over the last couple of years is an increase in rental demand for the theater. We've talked about the projector as an area for improvement. The lighting is not really at theatrical standards. I mean, this is a room that was really designed as a lecture hall, and it's very good for presentations, but it does have lots of other potential applications. So there's need for additional lighting, so some wiring to support that. The layout of the control booth doesn't really make sense because you have to stand in order to see the stage. But the desk is down low. And there's very kind of clumsy control of the audio. I mean, the audio quality is excellent, but the controls of it is not the best. And also, whenever we want to do video or live streaming, we have to bring everything in. So there's no in-house live streaming or video capacity. So here are some of the examples of some activities and some of the lessons we've learned along the way. So back in August of 2022, we hosted David Newland, who did he's a wonderful musician and storyteller, and he was playing music and telling stories using the slides and on the screen. And it was fantastic. But what we noticed is that he was either in the dark or the slides were in the dark. Really didn't have a lot of flexibility with the light to be able to have really crisp, clear images on the screen and a clear, clear view of him as the presenter. So what's the solution? We added a couple of new spotlights, and that came out of I believe it's the 2023 budget, just to make a little bit more lighting on the stage. Later in 2023, we had Butterfly Tongue, an original play by former Owen Sound Poet Laureate Richard Eve Sitoski, and he presented it there. And at that point, we had added those couple more lights, which was great. It was able to give us full lighting across the stage, but a little bit uneven. So there's some filling in of shadows that could be done with some additional spotlights there as well. And then last fall, this was very exciting. We had a lecture in our fall lecture series. And we had a presenter, Matt Johnson, you can see on the left in this photograph. And he was speaking with a historian, a well-known Canadian historian, Mark's, I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name, Zelke, who was presenting live from Victoria. And with the use of the camera in there, he was able to see some of the audience. And so this was really a proof of concept for how this space could be used, again, with borrowed equipment. There was limited opportunity for audience interaction with this format. There's a bit of a restricted view of the audience by the presenter. So again, the solution, bring in our own, put in-house video and live streaming equipment to make the events like this more functional and feasible. So in that improvement plan, which Savannah has spoken to, we first, out of the capital reserves, we had $25,000 in the current capital budget for 2024. We used that to pay for a consultant's report initially, who made an assessment and many recommendations for the space. So we were not just looking at what we could do with that $25,000, knowing that we might have a sponsorship in the offing. We looked at some of the other things that could be potentially brought into the theater. So with the $25,000, we had enough to buy a new 4K projector, a 4K Blu-ray player, so it's going to be nice, crisp, very bright and high resolution in there, and accessories that go along with that, as well as the balance from that $25,000. There'll be some money available for electrical work in the booth and potentially a couple more spotlights. But then with the sponsorship from Mr. Thomas Wheeldon, that will allow us to do additional physical improvements to the booth, improve the audio, possibly add a wireless communication system for communication between operators, and also the video and live streaming. So all of that is what we're looking to wrap up into that budget. So what are the outcomes from all of this? What we're looking at is increased rental demand and revenues for Grey Roots. and improved technical capacity for our in-house events. That includes concerts, film screenings, more interactive presentations, as well as our programs and our exhibits. It's going to be a superb venue for hybrid meetings, conferences, and presentations. So we see a huge potential with this very generous sponsorship. And as the report attests to, we're looking at a 10-year naming rights. And I'll turn it back over to Savannah, but I'm available to answer any questions you might have about any of those, anything in the plan.
Well, thank you so much, Doug. So what we have in front of you are two asks today. The first is authorization for the warden and clerk to enter into a sponsorship agreement with Mr. Thomas Wheeldon. And the second is for 10-year naming rights. Staff have looked at, we have the new sponsorship policy. We very seriously consider what the value is of a sponsorship, and for the theater specifically to bring it into, an asset that we can be very, very proud of. We thought $50,000 in a 10-year naming was very fair for this opportunity. So those are what we have before you today. And the contributions will be in a phased approach, as will the work. We know we cannot do all of this work all at once. So we do have highlighted in here a little chart to show you when the work would happen and when the sponsorship would happen as well. So if you have any questions, we're very excited about this opportunity and pleased to answer.
Thank you, Savannah and Doug, for that presentation. I have to say, every time I'm in that theater, it just feels so neat, cozy. Yeah. It does. It's really cool. Anyway, are there any questions regarding the report? Councillor Mackey.
Thanks, Mr. Warden. I guess it's, have we in the past given naming rights to individuals for a financial contribution? Is this something new that, I know we had our corporate policy, but have we done it before, I guess is my question. Or is this something new and we're going to continue to look at, other naming opportunities for investors?
I think I know the chair you're in is the Scott Mackey chair, and I guess we're just waiting for the check to clear. No, I'm kidding. Savannah.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Warden. This isn't new. The corporate asset naming policy has been around for quite some time, and we have done it several times at Grey Roots in the past. So the Arnott General Store was the last example, which was also as a donation by Mr. Thomas Wheeldon, and Zeus's Place, which was another one by him as well. And that was a naming right. So we've been before council twice in the last 2 years with those. So this is the third opportunity.
Just by way of some further context, I was part of a CAO's meeting yesterday for the Southwest region, and this topic of sponsorship was part of the discussion there. Many of the larger municipalities to the south of us actually have, as part of their economic development department or part of some sort of strategic operations out of the CAO's office. Larger places have people who are that's really the focus of their position, is to look for opportunities for sponsorship as an alternative source of revenue for the municipality.
Okay, thank you. Councillor DeBreen.
Thank you, Warden Milne, and thank you for the presentation. I can speak to just how busy Grey Roots Museum can be on an event day. And the more people that learn about Grey Roots Museum and Morriston Village, the more people are going to be flocking to the facility. I just wanted to clarify, in your report, it indicates that an additional 50,000 will be included in the 2025 and 2026 capital budget. Is that's in addition to the 50,000 sponsorship? No. And second part of that is, have you looked at the costing of video and live streaming equipment? So I'm just $50,000 probably won't go very far.
Great questions. And through you, Mr. Warden. So the $50,000 that we will put into the capital budget is this 50,000, because right now we had only intended to do $25,000 worth of work. And that was focused only on the projector and some of the lighting and electrical that was needed. But knowing that we have this potential with council's approval of it, then we would need to work that into the budget so that we have a revenue source coming in and then the expense to match. So that is your first question. And then the second question around cost, we do have a really good costing because of the consultant's report that was put out. It won't be like this, that we have it function, because this is very, very specific to this need, but there will certainly be an opportunity, and we're looking around 35-ish thousand for just that component of itself. It is the most expensive piece, followed by the projector for sure. And it will be well used. For an example, tomorrow we have our 20th anniversary kickoff celebrations, and the theater will be used as part of that. So we're very excited to be able to see those types of events and how we can start to incorporate our events and our programs and our exhibits into the theater space as well, in addition to what Doug is already doing independently.
I can say without a doubt, speaking with Jill on the weekend, Jill Patterson on the weekend, about a hybrid event that reached over 300 people at one point, and how the outreach beyond the 75 seats in the theater, how the outreach could be further expanded with the hybrid technology. So I'm fully supportive of the initiative, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Barb. Anyone else have any questions? Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you, Savannah. Thank you, Doug. Okay, we have a closed meeting matter. The motion is that the committee of the whole does now go into closed session pursuant to section 239 of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended to discuss labor relations or employee negotiations. Someone care to move? Councillor Body, seconded by Councillor Pringle. Any discussion? All those in favor? That is carried. So we'll just take a moment to set up for closed session. Thank you, Olivia. We are now back live and in person. I can confirm that we only discussed that item that was on the closed meeting agenda. Is there any other business to come before this meeting? Nope. Sorry, Councillor McQueen, go ahead.
Just a small note that you mentioned about sponsorship, and I think we need to upgrade our sponsorship on our chairs. I'm sitting on Norm Jack's chair, and my colleague Deputy Mayor is sitting on Wayne Fitzgerald's chair. So I think there needs to be a bit of an upgrade on sponsor.
That is so noted. Thank you, sir. Is there any notice of motion? Nope. I need a motion to adjourn. Councillor Mackey, seconded by Councillor Hutchison. All those in favor? We're adjourned. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Enjoy the rest of the day. Happy Canada Day.